Hi guys, it's John back again with another model in box review. And you must be looking at the screen and thinking, oh my god, what the hell is he doing a model of now? Well, this in front of you is obviously a Star Wars TIE Fighter. And there's probably quite a canny few number of geeks out there who like Star Wars, and maybe you've got Star Wars seat covers for your car, maybe you've got Star Wars uniforms and you turn up to all the Star Wars films and conventions and whatnot in uniform and everything, but I'm not really that bad. I do like Star Wars films, and I thought I'd start a project where I'm just basically collecting a series of models from the Star Wars films, and I wanted to try and build um, a set of vehicles from the Star Wars movies that sort of reflect Star Wars in general and not any particular film. So I've attempted to go for the basic run-of-the-mill kits, and I've actually got 4 models altogether, and this is the first of the series of kits that I'll be building. The model in subject today is the Revell Level 3 1/110th scale. It's actually called a Cynair Fleet Systems Incorporated TIE Fighter. And it's one of the Revell early entry kits. It's quite, it's quite an easy kit to build and everything. And I thought I'd give them, I'll get a few of them and give them a look, and maybe do a few in-box reviews, and so that people can see what you get in the box before you buy them. So that's a nice image from the original film Star Wars, which the special effects in it are quite dated, I know, but yeah, that's from the original film Star Wars. That's one of the TIE fighters that was sent out from the Death Star during the original film Episode 4. The kit we're looking at actually started off life as one of these. This is the Easy Kit Pocket range that Revell started to release in around about the time when Episode 1 turned out, which was I'm trying to remember what the film was called now. I can't remember what the film was. The Phantom Menace, that was what it was called, yeah. When The Phantom Menace was released, those 3 god-awful films that were absolutely terrible and took you away from the real effects of Star Wars as movies and stories go. But this was the original release, and this happened in 2012, which actually was a long time after Darth Maul and The Phantom Menace appeared on the cinema and everything. But this was the actual base film that this pocket range of kits was based on. It was the Phantom Menace saga right through to the third volume 3 before The New Hope was released. So that's 2012. Then you go to 2015, and Revell produced this starter set, and this is actually the same model that I'm actually doing the review on. This is just a starter set version of it, and they also released this kit as an individual model as well. The starter sets are quite nice because the brushes that you get in the pack are actually twin-ended brushes. You've got like a nice medium to small size brush, and I use this brush quite a lot in my modelling because it's actually a really, really good brush. And the opposite end is one that you can sort of, it's not really a decent brush for anything. It's like a general purpose brush, but it's not really very good. And what I did with my brush is I chopped the end off to make it like a hard bristle end circle stub end, and I use that for you can use it for weathering effects, but you can also use it for dapple camouflage, which I've had a dabble at before in the past. And it's quite good, it's quite handy, and I think I used that brush end on my my Italian fighter that I did an in-box review on and final reveal earlier in the year. So that's the 2015 starter set release, and they also did this model, which was the subject of the kit I'll be doing the in-box review on, which was the individual kit without all the paints and everything. The starter sets, I don't know why, but they seem to retail for virtually double the price of the original kit, and I don't think it warrants the extra cost, so I just bought them in this manner. So that's the 2015 release, and that's the final release on this boxing in the 1/110th scale offering. It's interesting of note here that it states that the kit actually has 22 parts. That's incorrect as well, unless they're including the decal. Yeah, there's only one decal, and that's quite a laugh as well when you see it. There's a nice image here of the style of TIE fighter that I'm going to try and reenact. This is one of the ones, I think, from the original show. It's not one of the ones from the new film releases. I'm sure this is from the original show. The design of it is very similar to the original Volume 4, 5 and 6 TIE fighters from that era. So what I'll do, we'll just pan the camera down very quickly. I'm not expecting this video to take very long because this kit is not very complicated. It's just really a review on what you get inside these models, and I don't think they're that bad actually when you think of what they are and how much they cost, because they're not that dear. I'm trying to get this to come up and focus for you. That's basically the kit we're looking at. The box is about hand sized, which is nice. We'll just open the box up. Oh, before I open the box up, there's some imaging on the back which gives you the parts that you get, what you get in the contents. There's actually a stand in this kit, which is nice, and there's even transparent parts. That's canny and all, isn't it? And they give you a paints guide here, the colours they suggest you use for painting your model up, and also the accessories, which they're telling you are actually available as separate items to purchase, but that's virtually what you'll need to build the kit. Now then, we'll open the box up. We'll get to the parts in a minute. We'll put that on there, and then we'll go through the instructions. The instructions are very colourful on this. We'll have a look at this bit of gump first, and then we'll look at the decal in a minute, because the decal's a joke. There's a little pamphlet inside virtually every Revell kit now, and it's basically a safety advice pamphlet. And it's a little bit like like getting your granny, teaching your granny, how to suck eggs. It's a bit ridiculous, really. It's all the information that most modelers, after they built the first model, pretty much know. And it's in the back, and a lot of it's common sense, but it's in the back of your mind. You know, a lot of this is stuff you already know. So we won't go through any of that pamphlet. It's not really worth bothering about. And then next, I want to have a look at the instruction leaflet, because the instruction leaflet on this is a really nice instruction leaflet. Unlike a lot of model companies nowadays, Revell started doing a lot of instruction leaflets in full colour, with the colour logo there for Revell, and there's a skill level 3. I think that's a bit overestimated, because the skills required in building this kit are pretty basic. If this is a skill level 3, I'd hate to think what skill level 1 kit is. Probably something that's already made. The kit itself builds into much of Revell's usual steps, 12 steps, which is really crazy, because if you incorporate the number of parts in this kit into 12 steps, you're averaging 1 to 2 a step, because there's only 21 parts in this kit. But basically, you've got some nice tips there and photographs on the front page, which is good, it's great. You've got the Revell website there. It's all there. You've got the general icons for build, all in loads and loads of different languages, which is brilliant as well. All the different icons that tell you what to do and when to do it and how long to do it for, which is nice. And then you've got on this page, which is page 4, you've got the paint guide. And the paint guides are obviously in Revell colours, but they do tell you what the colour is called, so that you can transpose them over to the colour types of paints that you use regularly. And then on page 5 you've got a nice parts plan, which everyone knows is looking at these videos. They all know that I'm a great fan of parts plans, so that you can ID all the parts before you build them, which is great. The interesting thing on here is that it's actually telling you on the parts plan that there are 21 parts. So they must be, including the decal. That's the 22nd part. Now then, yeah, there is one massive big problem I've got with this particular kit, and it's not really an issue with its build. I've not seen any reviews on this kit, because I don't think anyone's done any reviews on this kit, but I have seen a couple of videos on YouTube of people building it, just to show the end result and what it's like to build this thing. But basically, sections 1 through to 4 is building the interior. As you can see there, the pilot seat, the floor pan and the pilot. And in section 2 you've got the flight control unit, which goes in front of the pilot. And section 3 you've got the side plates. And section 4 you've got the back plate and the second side plate, which is fair enough, isn't it? Section 5 you're building the main body of the actual TIE fighter itself, the base first and then the top, goes over the top. And it's quite interesting because in section 6 they're showing you that section 4 which is a sub-assembly section at the end of section 4, and I always think that looks a little bit like the ball turret in the bottom of a B-17. I wonder if they got the shape for the TIE fighter basing on that, because he looks like he's in the ball turret of B-17, doesn't he? Can you see him there? Interesting. And then you've got basically the body build finish in section 7, and then you build onto the wings, or are they the side panels? I wouldn't know what to call them really. I mean, I'll call them wings because that's what they look like to me. But section 8, 9 and 10 is basically building the wing sections, port and starboard. You can see them there. They're quite, when you see the parts, they're actually quite nice looking parts, and I think this thing will paint up beautiful. And then section 11 and 12 there is just building the stand and applying the kit to the stand, which is great. It says do not cement. Interesting. On the back page, section 13 is basically your colour guide. I wouldn't go pedantic about the colours that Revell are asking you to paint this thing, because I would definitely try and go off photographs from the movies, because I think the actual colours they're telling you to paint this thing is a much darker grey than what appears to be the norm in the films. I think these colours are much more like the colours from the ships from the First Order in the later films that have been released. You know, like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi and whatnot. I think the earlier ships from the earlier format films, I think they were a much lighter grey. But they had matte black panels like this. So yeah, I would definitely refer to what was off the movies. The decal sheet. Now try not to laugh. The decal sheet is the front frame for the windscreen on the TIE fighter. Now, I think looking at the part, it's upside down, I didn't realise that. I would definitely try to paint this, for me personally, but I think that decal would work quite well. I think it might work quite well, but I think if you could get the paint onto the kit rather than use that decal, I think you would actually get a better result. Right, the parts. Let's get the parts out very quickly because there's not a lot to go through on here. Not a lot at all to go through on here. Let's get that part on one side so I can use that first, because that's the transparencies, which seems to want to be doing what I want it to do. The transparencies. There are two parts, transparencies here. You've got the backing part to the body shell of the actual TIE fighter at the back, which is a small bit here, and you've got the front window, which is the windscreen visor. Now I'm looking at that part and I'm guessing that's going to paint up really nice. I don't think I'm going to need to use that decal, and I think if you could paint it and have the frames crisp and clean, and the easiest way to do that is to use acrylic paint and then use a cocktail stick if you've gone over the lines anyway and just clean it up. I think you could make a really nice looking front windshield out of that. And looking at the actual photo I've got in front of me, it's a slightly different colour. It's almost a metallic colour, maybe a mild titanium silver that Tamiya do, something like that would probably be a better idea. But those parts, they look quite nice, don't they? I mean, they are what they are. They're not crystal clear in terms of like most ordinary models that Revell build, but they're okay, aren't they? They'll do. These are the parts. There's 3 sprues altogether, and there's a separate base for the stand. So actually there's 4 sprues altogether. The first part I'm looking at is the actual body unit for the TIE fighter. The detail on it is quite nice actually. It's quite pronounced. There's quite a bit going on there, and I think you could, you know, with a decent paint job, I think you could make this thing look really nice. Parts, yeah, the parts look quite nice. The interiors aren't anything to write home about, but you won't be able to see an awful lot of the interior through those glass panels. Not anything with real detail visible anyway. The stand base itself is pretty much a muchness. It's just a flat, looks like a bottle lid, doesn't it? Jam jar lid or something. And then you've got these parts here, and these parts are very interesting. Actually, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go through the wing panels before I do that part, because I'm going to do something with the other thing that is going to be quite illuminating. The wing panels, again, these are quite nice as well. The detail on those parts is actually quite crisp, and I think Revell have done quite a bit with this model to make it look, you know, when it's painted up, it's going to look quite nice, isn't it? These are the inside edges, remember. These are the bits that go towards the TIE Fighter. And then those are the bits that go towards the TIE Fighter's body, and these are the outside edges that the body's locked into on both sides. They'll of course be grey and black, matte black inside. Now then, the last sprue. The last sprue I've got a problem with, but it's only one particular part, and I think it's all down to the scaling that Revell have used on this model, because somebody's lying somewhere. You've got some nice detailed parts there. Those are the end plates that go over the wings on the outside. On the outside? I'm not sure actually. They might be on the inside. I'm not sure. They might be the tops to the body. I'm not sure. But you've got some other bits and bobs there of the body shell and everything else, and the parts look quite nice. That's the stand joist there. That's the joist that holds the model under the stand. Very nice. You've got a control console here. Again, that's quite, you know, it's all right, isn't it? Paint up all right. Bits and bobs there. And then we've got a problem with the pilot, because the pilot, bearing in mind this is 1/110th scale, I'm going to measure him to find out how big he is, because I think the pilot's seat and the pilot, something wrong here, something desperately wrong. So let's measure first of all the pilot's seat. The pilot's seat is actually 3/4 of an inch high, and the pilot is, good grief, the pilot is actually he's the same, the pilot is 1 1/4 inches high. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get the calculator up on my computer, and you've got 1.25, right, times 110, because it's 1/110th scale. That equals 137.5 inches. So you divide that by 12, and that gives you how tall he is. This pilot is 11 foot 9 inches tall. He's a giant, isn't he? Yeah, so I think either the scale of the kit is wrong, or the pilot and the pilot seat has been made, I would say, twice the size it should be. The pilot seat is roughly 9.5 foot high if you scale it up, but the pilot is 11 foot 9. I don't think he'd fit into many combat aircraft that are flying today, and there was no way he would be able to fly an X-wing fighter, not being 11 foot 9 high. So that's the issue I've got. I do want to show you the pilot actually, because the pilot's quite nice. He's nicely detailed, and as pilot figures go in these small kits, you know, he's got a bit of a look of the Predator about him, hasn't he, in many ways, with all those oxygen and feeds coming off his mask at the bottom there. It's a shame he can't focus up a bit better than he can, but there he is, he's coming into view quite nice. He's quite a nice looking figure, and his arms are perfectly stretched out to reach those control columns, the yoke in front of him that's going to be in the pilot compartment. So that's the major issue I've got with this kit, is the fact that the 1/110th scale on the model is, the model's either too small to be 1/110th scale, or what I'm tending to grow towards is the fact that the pilot and the pilot seat have been made twice the size they need to be, so that small people, younger children, and novice builders will find them easier to paint and get a better result than a small figure. I think really, I mean, I've actually had a couple of 1/100th scale kits from a company called Zeb Plasticart in Eastern Germany, and the pilot figures on those kits are about, let's just try and think, they're about half an inch high, which would make them about 5'10", which is about right, isn't it? And this guy is over twice his height, so there you go. Right, the actual gump, I'm just going to go through the... Actually, what I'm going to do is pack this back away so you've got something to look at, which is great, isn't it? Actually, you know, there are 22 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, no, it's 21. Definitely 21 parts on this kit. Definitely, I was definitely right. I have counted them 2 or 3 times to make sure. And I've found that companies have done this a few times with my own box reviews when I've gone through them, and, you know, just to ascertain how many parts are in the box. And a number of companies have actually made mistakes with a number of parts in their kits. I remember Hella released the Airfix Lightning P38 F and H Lightning, and they stated it had 66 parts in the box. It didn't, it had 67. And I know it's a bit pedantic to say that, but, you know, I think getting things like that wrong is ridiculous. So I'm guessing they've included the decal as one of the parts. Anyway, there's the kit box you'd have a quick look at. We'll just go through the gump on the kit. There's not an awful lot to go on. The model itself is a Revell TIE Fighter. It's the actual model is based on the Revell TIE Fighter, on the TIE Fighter from the more modern movies that included The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. The serial number on the kit is 03605, and it's scaled in 1/110th scale. The model has one decal, which is the decal for the window frame on the front of the windshield. The kit has 19 parts on 4 grey plastic sprues and 2 parts on 1 clear plastic sprue, totaling 21 parts in total. The dimensions of the kit will be approximately 4 inches long by 4.5 inches wide by 6 inches high on its stand. The options and costs, right. The options and costs in 1/10th scale, obviously you're looking at the Revell TIE Fighter, which retails for between £5 and £15, and the Revell TIE Fighter starter set, which retails for about £12 to £28. I have seen it sell for £28 on eBay, and don't ask me why, because the kit's £14.99 in the shop, but there you go. 1/72nd scale featured kits from Argonauts, who did a TIE Fighter, but I haven't any pricing options on that whatsoever. Bandai did a TIE Fighter from £20 to £35, and Fine Moulds do a really nice TIE Fighter kit for £10 to £46. And yes, I have seen one sell on eBay for 46 quid. In 1/65th scale, Revell did a TIE Fighter, and again, that was not a bad model either. That was 20 to 30 quid. And AMT Ertl did a 1/51st scale TIE Fighter, and that kit retails for about £35 to £45. And then you start going into quite large kits. In 1/48th, Fine Moulds do a really nice TIE Fighter for £65 to £130. And yes, I've seen a Fine Moulds kit sell for £129.99. There's a Revell TIE Fighter, which is actually the reboxed Fine Moulds kit, and that usually retails between £45 and £60. And then the next 3 scales, I haven't actually got any pricing, price tags attached to them, but they are interesting to note. In 1/36 scale, BCI do a TIE Fighter, which is built from resin and metal parts. In 1/24 scale, Nice and Model Designs do a resin kit of a TIE Fighter, again no pricing on that. And then you get the Giant kit, which is Garage Kit Limited, and they do a TIE Fighter which was made of resin and metal. Again, I've got no pricing on that. Conclusions. This is interesting. Well, it's a small kit, so there's no problems for shelf space, and it's easily available and can be bought for less than a £5 if you're careful. The pilot would have to be about 11 foot tall, so maybe Darth only employed TIE Fighter pilots that found it hard to get their trousers from the shops. It's an easy build and scope for fun in painting. The detail on the kit looks really, really good for the size of the model it is, and the parts look pretty good for the scale and reasonably good detail. This is a start to a project involving a number of Star Wars models, so it should look better as a collection altogether. The models I've got in the stash as part of this project, I've got an X-Wing fighter. There's also a Millennium Falcon, which is in a small scale, so it fits into the same box. And I've also got a snow speeder, which I've always liked the look of the snow speeders from The Empire Strikes Back. I've always liked the look of them. I always thought they were quite a nicely designed sort of attack craft. So that's the inbox review on the Revell 1/10 scale TIE Fighter. I hope this video has been some fun and you've had a reasonable laugh. And maybe it's of some use to you if you fancy buying a TIE Fighter for your children or something, or maybe building one for your children. Or maybe just, you like Star Wars and fancy something on your shelf that's a bit unusual. The Revell kit may be a reasonable option, seeing that you can get it really cheap. And it's incredibly easily accessible from the shop, so you can usually just walk into any model shop and pick this thing up very easily. I hope the video's been of some use. If you've got any questions, any comments, just leave them in the comments box. Any questions, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.